Tanner.
Tanner. Oh, whoops. Okay, I'll ignore that.
That's okay. It's the same thing.
I guess it really is.
Yeah, that's kind of. My chair is so broken. It tilts to one side.
Look, I got it right. I literally got 2.75.
I am so proud of you, Tanner, for the slope.
Oh, whoops.
Sure, that's right.
You put the wrong Y-intercept.
Did I?
Yeah, you put 68.
Uh-huh.
That's the correct one, 103.
It's been a long day.
It has been.
And it's only a Tuesday, which is really disappointing.
Yeah. Me too.
Oh, why are you doing that, Chloe? Alright, is that adequate?
Thank you. Alright, so slope. Remember, you take your R times the standard deviation of y divided by standard deviation of x, which all of that information was up here. Here's our standard deviation of y, standard deviation of x. When you plug that in, you get 2.749. And then to find your y-intercept, you take your average y minus b times your average x, which she showed that. And the 68.076 that she wrote at first, that was this part, when you multiply those. And then when you subtract it from that, you get the 103.354. So our equation is 2.749x plus 103.354. Interpreting the slope, so for every 1 centimeter increase in foot length, the height will increase by 2.749 centimeters. She then used the least squared regression line equation to predict the height of somebody with a foot length at 25 centimeters. So she put 25 in for x and simplified and got 172.079. And then for the residual, you take your actual, which it says 185, minus the predicted, which was the 172.079. So the only thing on this is the residual should have been positive. Who is it? Oh, of course. Answer away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can.
Do you have an interview?
Yeah, no, I love that. That'll be good time. Alright. Alright, cool. I'll see you. Thank you. Bye.
Do you have an interview?
I guess so.
Did you apply there?
Yeah, a while ago.
All right. So today we're going to talk more about R squared, but a lot of this is stuff we've done before. So you guys get to do most of the work today.
Oh.
Mr. Wilcox is extremely interested in predicting his two children's aptitude later in life. One way to predict later aptitude in children is by knowing the age and months when the child spoke their first word, which tends to be daddy, which is so unfair because women do most of the work.
My first word was dog.
All my kids had weird ones. My oldest was turtle. My middle one was birdie, and then my youngest was blueberry. So
What is this?
I think turtle is hard.
he had lots of turtle toys, and he was in the bath, and he just picked one up, and he was like, turtle. Like, he's a turtle. I have to say, my youngest, he made me really mad this weekend. He's like just over two years old, and I have been waiting and waiting. He has a really good vocabulary for his age, and I have been waiting for him to say like I love you. And so this last weekend, I was taking him to my daughter's soccer game, and my husband coaches her team. And we get there, and I'm like, look, who's that? Who's that? And he goes, Dada. Love Dada. And I was like, what? I wanted that. And then my husband comes over to like say hi, and I go, he said he loves you. Like he said, love Dada. And he goes, oh, cool. And like, that was it. No big deal to him. I'm like, I have been waiting. He still hasn't said love you or love mom. Like, I'm so angry.
Maybe he has and
What?
maybe he has
Maybe you
and
just didn't listen.
one bird
Oh.
Did you say Weinberg?
hasn't.
No.
That
No.
was bird. Oh my God.
No.
Sorry, that's funny.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's one bird, right?
Yeah.
Weinberg
Weinberg was my teacher in high school.
I know.
Okay,
that's
that's
one bird. Oh. Miss Little likes the teachers, I guess.
Well, my husband is a teacher. So, anyways, sorry, that was a side story. Now I'm really distracted. Do you guys know how old you were when you spoke your first word? How old were you?
I was 16 months.
16
Mom
months.
wasn't texting me back. I was saying both sentences
10
when I
months.
was 2.
Yeah, that's the way Henry is. Like, I picked him up from my parents yesterday, and we go out front, and the neighbor's garage is open, and he goes, oh, neighbor's outside. I'm like, what the heck? Like, neighbors? You're like 2. Where'd this word come from? And I'm like, I'm sure my mom said that to him.
When I was like 1, I started saying perhaps and suppose to my mom a lot. So she'd ask me a question, and I'd go, I suppose, or perhaps.
That's funny. All right. So a recent study of development of young children recorded the age in months. So keep that in mind. All these ages are in months. At which each of 21 children spoke their first word, and then their Giselle adaptive score, the result of an aptitude test taken much later in life. So you have the child's number. That doesn't really matter. That's just so we can reference, because we're going to use this data on Thursday. Look, I changed from ACT GPA data to something else here.
That's crazy.
But we are going to use this again on Thursday. Okay. But so the child number, that's not really the data we're looking at. It's just so we can say, oh, look what child 17 did. Because we're going to use child 17 in a little bit. So their age in months and then their score. And then down below is the software output that we talked about yesterday. The software is called Minitab. So you can use the output from Minitab to come up with the equation of your least squared regression line and interpret the sloping context, because you just saw a good example by yourself how to interpret slope. If you want to feel ambitious, you could try 3, but you don't have to. Although we did talk about that yesterday too. Tanner's got a song playing in his head.
We actually have to do this by ourselves.
Yeah. No. That made me learn something I'm never gonna test on.
You could do that if you want.
Why would I do that?
Well, okay, why are we teaching the test not to learn?
Because we're held to the standards of the test. I agree with you. And here's the worst part. Juniors still have to take smarter balances.
What?
I'm sorry.
That's so nice.
I'm sorry.
I don't think we took it last week. I couldn't tell you how much smart balance I've taken in high school. Do you know? Oh.
You don't have to take science. Science got off that, but English and math you have to.
Did you know that I held the math oaks score for middle school in 8th grade? So
I didn't take that
last year by 8 Ramaker's little brother.
What was it?
I don't remember.
What kind of record did we not remember?
I don't know. Mrs. Beckstead told me. She was like, you scored the highest I've ever seen.
If it was our old desktop, I could look it up, but I don't know if they put your test scores in here. Well, that reminds me, I should probably take attendance.
I think Aiden's little brother is literally just a million carbon copy.
It is. They look the exact same.
It's so weird. We'll be tracked. And I was like, oh, it's Aiden. I'm like,
Yeah.
nope, that is.
Aiden says that they don't look similar, or they are similar at all. I'm just like, very good.
But they look at the same
I
time.
know. It's like-
I've only ever seen his little brother from behind. That sounds
Like,
weird. No, I don't know. I would see him because my son's a year younger than him, so I would see him at the AAU basketball.
Yeah, he's like not coordinated, just like Aiden, so it's really funny seeing him like try to catch a ball. So like I'll try to throw it to him and he'll just like put his hands up and he'll just drop it. And Aiden does that same thing. It's super funny.
Doesn't mini Aiden play football though?
I like how you call him Mini Aiden.
What's his name?
Dylan. There's like the 2 whitest names.
They are white.
I know a kid. I've known him for a while. He goes to Ash. He has just kind of like Aiden, but more like curly, creepy, like light blonde hair. So we just started calling him Alminer Broccoli. I used to call Roman Mr. Broccoli. But then I realized that like cauliflowers
Because
just
he
don't have
eats
So.
Yes, he does. He
Oh,
ordered
that's
it at dinner.
hilarious.
I have a video.
I feel like
Come on, Tanner, try it on your own.
There's something wrong.
You eat broccoli and
You didn't know that?
Oh, my dad does that. It's
Mom does that
nasty.
too. Does what? No one eats
It's
broccoli.
for broccoli and mayo. My dad does it with asparagus too.
Oh,
I swear I
No one
hate
does it. He
mayo
was like, "Dude,
because anytime I didn't like the taste of something, my dad would be like, let's put some mayo on it. I'm like, you it's so disgusting.
We did hard. You like my pretty stars?
Yeah. Number 1.
Did I get this part
No
right?
stars. Yes, the white hat part is correct. Come on, Tanner.
It's so fun to call.
What's your middle name, Tanner?
I'm really confused on what all these
Tanner
numbers
James,
mean.
get to work.
let's go.
So,
I don't
The
know.
notes we used to do tell
remember
us
how to
that-
do
where it says coefficient,
Somebody listens to yesterday. So,
I gotcha. Was
well,
the coefficient an A?
that's okay. I know what notes are for, so you can go back to them.
So you can answer.
Which one?
Just kidding. What's the? I
You can do it. I mean,
My manager just asked me to come in early, so I told her that I could go to school at 3:15 and that it won't be that early. But
thought you quit.
I have until next Sunday. I have a lot of my saved up.
That's true.
It's the $800 on my phone. On the phone line.
Does anybody have T-Mobile? Is there?
No, it's stupid don't have some.
Do you like?
We
Do
had
you get good service? Because I have AT&T and it's horrible service, but I'm stuck in a stupid contract and T-Mobile is saying, like, hey, you switch.
They gave us
Finally.
They gave us $600 because it was 2 phones we were switching numbers.
Yeah.
So they gave us that many. We had T-Mobile in the Midwest when we moved, and this was like 10 years ago. Their service was like terrible, like customer service and like literal phone service. And then we had AT&T. AT&T was just awful. So
Now what do you have?
But now we have Verizon, and we're literally paying less, even though Verizon is more expensive. We're paying less for better service.
Because see, they won't pay to switch me on my contract right now.
Okay,
I literally cannot use my cell phone in my house.
that's how we were with AT&T.
Yeah. I have to go outside for the people on the other end of my phone.
My
Good
family,
Wi-Fi.
we use Verizon, and the only time we can't use the new building is at my mom's, the school she works at, because it's all cinder brick and concrete. So anybody who works there, regardless of provider,
For your cell phone?
but otherwise it works great. I've never had an issue with it.
I believe you.
Don't believe me? Fine.
Just you're the first one I've ever
I
heard.
like you.
Stop coloring on my desk.
We used to have
It's
one
too-
where
the math
go
is a
over
good
though,
word.
limited data, yeah.
I like the network that.
And it sucked.
Wow.
I only got like,
Well, that's how you feel too. No.
That's right, I do want to
got
discuss that.
$100 over data or something.
All I picked up is the school is dropped by
So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
I know.
I don't know if I'll be able to read it. but it's
I
fine.
will read it.
Cool.
That's what I said too. My mom was like, really?
Alright,
My grandma's on phone.
Nate,
and that's why you have stuff.
No. I actually did have
Dude, I knew it was the same.
Alright, so y hat is equal to 109.87. That comes from over here. Remember yesterday I said the constant is your y-intercept. Minus 1.13x. That's your slope. And then his interpretation for every 1 month before saying first word, the score drops by 1.13. So for every increase in 1 month of age, the aptitude score drops by 1.13 points. Wait, what?
Anderson.
It was 109.7 minus 1.13.
It's literally right above it in the box.
Listen.
I'm so tired.
You're killing me.
Listen to this. So I didn't know that wrestling practice was yesterday, and so I lifted after school until like 6, and so then I was like, oh, I'm super tired, right? And then my dad's like, oh, there's wrestling practice from 7 to 8, and you're also lifting. And I was like, bro, I just lifted, and it was my first day, so I had to go. So then we just lifted for an hour. So then I woke up today, and then I was dead. I skipped the first block.
What lifts did you guys do?
Bench and tricep, but then yesterday, the third at the superior, I was doing my legs. So I couldn't feel my legs or my chest today.
Didn't you say that yesterday?
Yes, but that was my back.
You're too young to like be this sore after working out.
No, you
I'm
have
really
to.
sore.
You have to be sore.
All right. So R is our correlation coefficient. Tells us the strength of the linear relationship. So find R and interpret in context. So yesterday I showed you how to find R from this information. You take the square root of R squared. Just remember to change it to a decimal, although remember I said if you don't, you just move the decimal in your final answer. So, square root of 0.41 is 0.64. And then is our R positive or negative? And how do you know?
It's positive. Just
That
kidding.
is-
Just kidding. Just kidding. Negative.
Why is it
The
negative?
slope's negative.
So R is negative because our slope is negative. Anybody remember how to interpret R? That was like a week ago.
Right, that's what,
Where?
moderate? That's what moderate strength, I think is what you said?
I did use the word moderate. It's not really strong and it's not
Really
weak
weak.
because it's in the middle. So R equals negative 0.64 points to a moderate. What else?
Negative association?
Moderate, negative, linear association.
But it's closer to 1.
But it's not close enough to be considered strong. I feel like I put an extra comma in there, I'm sorry. And then you should put context. So the association is between aptitude score and age of first word. Oh man, you guys should have told me I'm off in the corner.
Off in the corner.
You know what, Tanner? Go stick your nose in the corner. Is Carrick make people put his nose in the corner? I did that when I was in school. We misbehaved in class. We have to go put our nose in.
I do remember somebody standing in the corner with us.
He was the only teacher that ever kicked me out of class.
Why didn't you
You was
Because
teaching when you were a student?
He's not that old. I was passing notes and he told me to stop. And I didn't. So we
What notes were you passing?
I don't know, to my friends. I was passing notes. So he took me out of class and the detention center used to be H35 right over there. And and he was like right there. And he walked me to detention and I went, please don't make me go and I promise I'll stop passing notes. And so I got to go back to class. And I stopped passing notes. At least for that class period. I'm sure I did it again later.
What type of things do you write on this?
I don't know.
I think it's funny when people are passing notes and then the teacher's like, let me read it out loud.
I don't read them out loud. I'll read them. But I won't read them out
Did
loud.
they say anything funny?
Well, if it's like nothing personal, then I read them out loud. But I can't just read it out loud. What if it says something personal?
I remember in 8th grade, some girl handed me a note when I was in the lunch line, and then in Mrs. Beckstead's room, I was like reading it, and it was like, I'd never met her before. It was some girl named Sarah, I think I remember. And then Mrs. Beckstead read it out loud in class, and it was something about how some girl like my eyes or something. It was really weird. It was a really weird experience for me.
Was that,
Was it one of those notes where she was like, I like you? Do you like me? Check yes or no.
There's nothing like that except it has to do with my eyes. And my
I like your eyes. Do you like mine?
Check yes or no. So yesterday, I showed you how to find R squared. I told you that if you see this phrase, that's their way of asking for R squared. So today, we're adding interpret to it. And so this sentence in the quotations is pretty much our sentence frame, but we need to replace y with our actual y variable and x with our actual x variable. But other than that, that's your sentence frame. So r squared is 41%. Remember, we don't use r squared adjusted in this class. So that's 41%. And then, like I said, I'm just going to take what's in quotations, and that's my sentence frame. So instead of saying the percent of variation, I'm going to take the actual percent. So 41% of the variation in, and instead of just saying y, I'm going to say what y is. And y in this case is aptitude scores. Can be counted for, oops, I can't spell accounted, even though it's literally up above, or by the least squared regression line of aptitude scores on page of first word. So what that really means is that less than half of the variation in these aptitude scores is accounted for by our least squared regression line. So a higher r squared, closer to 100%, is better. The more you can account for the variation, the better your least squared regression line is, which makes sense because the closer to 100%, the closer our r value gets to 1, which means that we're better at making predictions. So 41% really is not a very good r squared. It tells us that our least squared regression line isn't a very good predictor. It doesn't make accurate predictions. Any questions before I flip?
You're about to really that the sausage is forming.
I did, and it's like falling apart before it even started.
Do you need stupid or do you need stupid? What is it?
I don't understand what's the point of it. Is this so there's like more than one World Cup a year or something between like the best team?
More than one.
Champions. Yeah.
I heard
The
that-
World Cup is different.
Oh, okay. And FIFA doesn't like it at all. They're just like
No. The European Football Association does not like
It's
it.
the you wait.
Oh,
It's probably.
Yeah.
they're just like, yeah, you're banned forever. They just really
I hadn't heard that part. All right. So on the back side, we're going to make a scatter plot and a residual plot. So if you have your Chromebook and you feel like following along, the scatter plot, honestly, I feel like you guys are really good at them. And then the residual plot, we talked about yesterday, but it might be a nice little reminder to see it again. So we're doing age, aptitude, score. My aptitude is funny. There we go. let's see. Okay. Where are my numbers? So our first age, 15, oops, not 36.
This is what it's, almost have my six-pack back.
Almost.
Almost. It's been
Almost isn't good enough.
Like, that's what I'm saying.
Well, then why are you working on your arms and your back and your
You
legs?
gotta burn the fat. Also, I'm sorry, sometimes I get angry.
What? Tanner, you can get on Google Sheets on your phone.
It's a lot harder.
No, it's not.
No, I've done it in class before. It's not that hard.
Let's all let's get trapped.
Well, the buttons are different. It's not as user friendly, but you can still do everything.
Yeah.
So him saying he doesn't have his Chromebook is no excuse.
Oh.
I feel like your middle name is May.
Nope.
Gosh, what does it start with?
Chloe May Rose. That would sound weird.
Chloe Ruby Rose?
That would be weird.
That would be weird. B?
D.
D?
Diane. It's actually my friend's name. Danielle. Yep. Aw.
Chloe Danielle, get to work.
Yeah,
Tanner James.
I'm getting on the Google Sheets.
I like being all the way over here. I don't get yelled at.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Daniel.
This will be like hobby. You're just gonna try to guess all of our names.
I have a feeling Amaranta's her middle name is Amaranta, and her first name is Miranda.
Dude, you
I am smart. Joanna, what's yours start with?
You'll never guess it.
Bring it.
It starts with an E.
Elise.
No.
Elizabeth.
No.
Elaine.
No.
Eleanor.
Boys' name, typically. It is not. It's actually a
Evelyn.
German name, so.
You're right. I'm never gonna get it.
This is aptitude score.
What is it, Joanna? It has to do with something like for Christmas.
You told me. Elf.
Yeah.
That's right.
What?
It's 11. She's the 11 in real life from Stranger Things.
Wait.
Her
Then I
middle
have a
name.
second middle name.
What? You have two middle names? Is the other one a German number too?
Ayla has one.
Is it a? What does it start with?
A C.
Drawing. Chloe.
No.
Christine.
No.
Christine.
No.
Cassandra.
No. Charlotte. Yes.
Good job. Is it
Dude, sorry.
Elf Charlotte or Charlotte Elf?
Elf Charlotte.
This one's your middle name.
Starts with an E.
Elizabeth,
Nope.
Elaine,
Nope.
Eliza.
Nope.
Eileen,
Nope.
Ella,
Nope.
Ezra.
No.
Is it like a traditional middle name?
No, I haven't heard very. I have had 2 students with this name. Yeah. It's not very common, I don't think.
What is it?
Elise.
I was
Okay.
I'm a little surprised you didn't guess it because when she said E, that was the first one out of my mouth.
I was trying to think, but I didn't. I have bad memory. Yeah, I said Eileen. Really bad.
All right. So you guys remember how to make a scatter plot, right? What am I waiting for, Chloe? So there's your scatter plot, right? I'm more concerned with the residual plot right now. So we've done scatter plots like a zillion times. The residual plot we did yesterday for the first time. So the next column I'm going to call the predicted score. And then remember in the first, I'm going to try something. I don't know if it'll work. But you highlight the, well, no. I don't know if it's going to work. So I'm just going to highlight all of them. And then you put equals, and then you use your least squared regression line, which was 109.87 minus 1.13. And last period, we learned that if you don't put the asterisk for multiply, Google Sheets will not like you. And then we're going to multiply by our x's, which are in A2 to A22. Do I need to zoom in?
Yes, please.
So I typed in, that's just our least squared regression line from question 1 on the previous side of the paper. So your y-intercept minus the slope times, and then I told it where to find all my x values. And then I hit enter, maybe, enter, oh, go away. Hit enter, and it gives me the first predicted score right there. And then I highlight that cell, and I'm going to drag the corner down, and it automatically fills them all in for me. Okay? Are we good on that? And then the next column is our residuals. And remember, residuals are your actual minus predicted. So the actual aptitude scores can be found from B2 to B22. And you have to put the equal sign. So we're going to say take B2 to B22, and we're going to subtract C2 to C22. And then we hit enter. It only gives you that first cell. Highlight it and drag down. Questions
Want to see that equation again?
for the residuals?
Yes.
B2 to B22 minus C2 to C22. Sorry. And then to make our residual plot, we want age, so the first column, and residuals. So you're going to highlight age, and then go over and you're going to hold down the control button while you highlight the residuals so that you have your two columns highlighted. And then just like making a scatter plot, go into insert, chart. Mine has a column chart as its default, so I'm going to change that to scatter, maybe. There it is. Does anybody have two sets of dots? Red dots and blue dots? No. You do, Tanner, or no? Amaranto, you doing okay? Okay. So then the only thing, let's see, last period, yeah, I don't like how, I'm going to zoom out just a little. I don't like how it goes negative 20 to 40. I like to keep it even both above and below. That's just a personal thing. So I'm going to change my vertical axis to go from negative 40 to positive 40. And then I also don't like how it starts at, I think, 5. Because 10 to 20 is huge. And this is definitely not 0 to 10. So I'm going to mess with my horizontal and tell it to go 0 to 42. So why don't we go to 50? And there's my residual plot. We have a pretty even split above and below. There's definitely no pattern to the residual plot, so that's a good thing. We do have a few more residuals above 0 than below, but like we already talked about with our least squared regression line is not the best fit because the variation, over half of the variation in aptitude scores is not accounted for by our least squares regression line. So, any questions before we do questions 6 and 7? And then I let you go get your cap and gown. No. Going to go back. Am I going to go with you? I suppose I don't have a class after you. But I also my leg hurts.
Oh, how'd your game go on Monday? That was last night.
Not good. Well, I don't know if you know Haley Durant. She was going to play with us. And she got called into work. So I was the only lady. And last week I went to the podiatrist because I was having issues with my calf. And he said, no running for 6 weeks.
What?
So what did I do last night? I played soccer. My calf hurts. Like, really bad.
Do you have
So, oh no, he gave me some really specialized anti-inflammatories to take. And I'm supposed to go to physical therapy, but my first appointment's not till tomorrow. And then he also took x-rays, and there's either a start or a finish of a stress fracture on my fibula.
No.
And then my mom's like, Amber, you're not supposed to run. I'm like, I know, Mom. But it was feeling fine, and I was doing great. And then 50 minutes into the game, my calf just cramped up. It's just,
Can you
it's
show
sore.
how to pull up the graph for the residuals again? Because I had to put it on the equation in like this little.
It's just like a scatter plot.
Just like that.
Just make sure you highlight age and residuals, and then it's a scatter plot. So we were ahead until 10 minutes left, because once I got hurt and I wasn't running, it was like playing 2 people down, and they scored like 3 goals in 10 minutes. It was bad. It's all your fault, self. All right. Predict the Giselle score for a kid who spoke his first word at exactly 1 year. Remember, the ages are measured in months, so 1 year is how many months?
12.
Good job, Tanner. So we're going to put 12 into our equation for x. It's so beautiful. There we go. So when we do that, 1.13 times 12. You guys can't really see that. There we go. And then 109.87 minus that. So we predict their aptitude score is going to be 96.31. Now, child 17 actually spoke their first word at exactly a year. So this one right here. And they got an aptitude score of 105. So what would our residual be?
105 minus 96.
105 minus 96.31. Actual minus predicted, which would give us 105 minus that. So 8.69. And then interpreting residuals. So the biggest thing with interpreting residuals is you want to state whether the least squared regression line predicted above or below the actual. In this case, it predicted below 96.31 when the actual was 105. So least squared regression line predicted below the actual aptitude score. By 8.69 points. Yeah. I ran out of time for a field trip. I'm sorry. But you can go early. Okay.
Here, does anybody remember this?
Yes.
Is that okay? Am I allowed to steal tonight?
No, Tanner is not allowed to go.
I love being there.
You're not.
No? Yeah. I so she's talking about time.
Yeah.
Thrilled about that.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Actually, no. You guys will see me tomorrow. I want to take every Wednesday out because of daycare issues. Tomorrow's just going to be a work day, though. So make sure you bring something to work